Hello all, I am Shihan Tarka. In this video, I will be explaining and demonstrating in detail on the whole process I went through to complete this security bypass vulnerability exploitation of the system and network programming assignment for second year first semester cybersecurity students. I will be explaining the whole process step by step that I did to exploit this vulnerability. What are the errors I got in the middle of the explanation and how I solved those things. First of all, I want to thank my lecturer, Dr. Lakmal Rupasinghe, who asked me to do this video as an assignment. And also I want to thank Mr. John Hammett and YouTube channel called Hackersploit because their videos helped me to figure out many things about this vulnerability. I will explain a bit about this vulnerability. In computer security, a vulnerability is a weakness which can be exploited by a threat actor, such as an attacker, to perform unauthorized actions within a computer system. To exploit a vulnerability, an attacker must have at least one applicable tool or technique that can connect to a system weakness. This pseudo vulnerability is a security policy bypass issue that provides a user or a program the ability to execute commands as root on a Linux system when the sudo's configuration clearly disallows the root access. Sudo stands for super user do, is a system command that allows a user to run application or commands with the privileges of a different user without switching environments most often. For running commands as the root user, if a sudo's entry is written to allow the attacker to run a command as any user except root, this fault can be used by the attacker to bypass that control. Sudo's file contains the information regarding privileges for different users and groups of our server. It is one of the most important files in the system and need to be handled with care. Joe Wenix, a security expert from Apple, discovered that sudo is affected by a buffer overflow vulnerability that can be exploited to escalate privileges on target system. The error might be exploited depends on specific privileges granted in this ysudo file, which means permissions configuration for the sudo command file. A rule that allows a user to edit files as any user except root, for example, would actually allow that user to edit files as root as well. In this case, the fault could lead to very serious problems. For a user to exploit the fault, a user needs to be assigned privileges in the ysudo file that allows that user to run commands as some other users, and the error is limited to the command privileges that are assigned in this way. The risk that it can cause is that any user who has been given the ability to run even a single command as a random user may be able to escape the restrictions and run that command as root, even if the specified privilege is written to disallow running the command as root. The exploit type is a privilege escalation. Privilege escalation is the act of exploiting a bug, design flaw, or configuration oversight in an operating system or software application to gain elevated access to resources that are normally protected from an application or user. To do the exploit, I am using Oracle VirtualBox as you see, and I have installed Ubuntu 16.04 operating system. I have found two methods to do this exploit. I will explain those two methods separately and clearly. The summary of this video is: first, I am creating user attacker and give privilege specification access to that user. Then using that user, I am going to know root ID and access root directory without inserting its password or switching to the root directory. And to say more, I will create a text file in root directory same as before without accessing root directory directly. I will show you how I am doing that in two methods which I told earlier. After I created that text file, I will switch into my root directory, enter my password, and I will show you that file I created not accessing root. It's kind of unbelievable thing to do, so I will show you first, then you will believe me. I hope you guys enjoy this video. To do so, I'm opening my terminal. It shows my home directory. To update a version, you can use sudo space apt dash get space update, but I'm not going to do that because updating sudo to version 1.8.28 should address this problem. If I did that, I can't show you how to exploit this vulnerability. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to type sudo space dash capital V, and I'm going to enter it. This is my version. It says my version is 1.8.16, so it means I can exploit it in here. Sudoers is also capable of running a command in a sudo-ttyn, logging all input and or output. The standard input, standard output and standard error can be logged even when not associated with the terminal. Input-output logging is not on by default but can be enabled using the log input and log output options as well as the log input and log output command tags. To exploit, in first method, I am going to create another user called attacker. Sudo space add user attacker, enter. I'm going to give password. These things, I'm going to leave these things as default. Yes. Now I have created the user called attacker. Next I'm going to sudo edit using sudo space sudo. This is the sudo file. sudo is a tool for safely updating the sudo file found in most Linux systems. For example, Ubuntu. This is the file that is required for allowing regular users run commands with super user privileges using sudo command. It has host alias specifications, user alias specification, command alias specification, user privilege specification, members of the admin group, and allow members group sudo. To do this exploit, we only use command alias specification, and user privilege specifications. I'm going to change this file as adding attacker in here like this. This is not root command. If you want, you can use in here user / bin / any command, but now I am leaving it like this. Exit. Yes, I want to save this file. Yes, enter. Then I'm switching to my account attacker. Go into my home directory. If I say here sudo space id, you can see it says sorry, user attacker is not allowed to execute that as root. So I'm going to use this command. I'm trying different ways. Sudo -u #0. 0 is the root ID, so I'm going to put 0 and space ID and enter. It also gives same error message. So now I'm trying a different method. Sudo space -u #-1 space ID. Let's see what happens. It shows the result. It says user ID, root's user ID is 0. I'm going to do this in another way, including some code to here. To -1, I'm going to enter 42949679295. It also gives same output. Next, I'm going. This happens because remember, I have given this user the ability to run as all users. That's why it works. You can see root ID now, which we wanted, and that shouldn't be happening because this user attacker, when I wrote this one, said that attacker is not allowed to execute it as root. But when I type this or this, it gives me access, give permission to access that to do execute part. Now I'm trying to create a text file inside root directory. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to say sudo space -u #-1. You can use that code also. /bin /bash. Enter. Yes. Now you can see it shows us root directory, but we didn't switch to root or neither enter root's password. This means we successfully exploit this vulnerability in this method. To prove it, I say sudo vi space -root open me.txt and enter. See, we can write anything in here. I'm going to write gotcha for fun. I'm going to exit this, save and exit. Now I have successfully created open me.txt file in root directory. So let's switch back to root. Let's so we can see is there is anything happens or not. So I'm going to exit, switch back to Xian, my password, CD. I'm going to clear this all. Let's switch to root directory. Now I'm going to give my root password, cd home directory. Let's see, ls space dash alts. It shows all files in root directory. Yes, here it is. I have created this. Okay, I'm going to see what is it's inside. I'm going to cat space open me.txt. Enter. The output is what I wrote before. In this first method, we have used -u#-1 command to access root. It also can be done with replacing that code among using -1. In the second method, we are going to use command area specifications to exploit this vulnerability. Let's move on to it. Let me go back into my sudo file. To do that, I'm going to switch to Xian again. I'm going to clear these things. Okay, I'm going to my sudo file and I'm going to change it like this: cmd underscore alias space eim space equal space dash user dash bin dash vi, and here also vim. And now I'm going to save. Yes, I want to save. Enter. Then I'm going back to attacker user. I'm switching to attacker. Enter my attacker password. Yes. In here, I'm going to create a file to root directory. I'm going to type sudo, like before I did, sudo vi root. I'm going to create a readme file .txt. I'm going to enter it. So user attack is not allowed to execute this as root. So I'm going to use that method in here, -u#-1. Let's see what happens. Yes, I have access. Now in here, it also gives us the rights to write anything in here. So I say assert I got you. I got you twice because this is my second time. I'm going to save and exit this. Okay, now I'm going to switch to my root account to see what is in there. So I'm switching to Sheehan first. Then I'm switching to root directory. Now I'm using my password. cd. Here ls space dash a lps. Okay, here is our readme file I created earlier. If I get this file, and enter, I got due twice. So this is the second method. That's how sudo bypass vulnerability exploit. In these exploits, we can assume that sudo doesn't check for the existence of the specified user ID and executes -u hash -1 returns as 0, which root's ID, and /bin/bash is executed with root permissions. This exploit shows us that we can run command as root whether we are root or not. I hope now you guys believe me because I have showed how it works. I hope you enjoy the video. Thanks for watching.